I'm a little ticked off tonight. I've been bothered and distressed and ticked off all week, to tell you the truth. Guy shouldn't come on Sunday night or Saturday night and vent in his sermon, but for the last month I've been getting these phone calls, and I've been getting a lot of them. Just takes my time, and the phone call is really a computer recording. That's what makes me mad, because you talk back to them and you can't talk to them. Nobody talks to you. They just keep rattling on. And I remember one call I've been getting just pretty regular, about every other week for the last month. Has been this call at, we're a new vacation agency in Nashville. And you have been selected out of all of the people in Nashville area to win a free vacation. It's a computer. There is a 5-day free vacation offered to you in a 5-star motel, completely free, 2 airplane tickets, a free rental when you get there, and $2,000 worth of spending money. If you're interested in this, stay on the line. And I hang up. In another week, they call me again. Same stinking thing. Now, when I begin to hear it, I just automatically shut the thing down, because you know it's a con. You know it isn't a free vacation. Come on. Listen, if all the widows were about to die, whose husbands had been rich from Nigeria, Africa, gave me the money they said they were going to give me. I mean, think of what I'd have. But it's a con. Come on, you know that. And it's not worth, I just hang up, and I'm sick of hearing it. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. What does that sound like to you? If you'd put it on a computer and it would be a call over your phone, you'd say, this is a con. This is a con. Better read the fine print. Wonder what it's going to cost me. Wonder what I'm enlisting into. Come to me as an invitation, verse 28. No question about that. Come to me as an invitation. We've settled that. It's not a command. We've gone over this and over this. It's an invitation for sure. But it's really an invitation that's too good to be true. Because nobody offers you rest. Everybody offers you work harder. Everybody offers you get more involved. Everybody offers you more stress, more responsibility, bigger pay, bigger benefits. See, nobody offers you rest. See, this has got to be a con. And as you get into it, well, as we've said, it's to a restricted group. It's only to the group that labor. And we discovered that means absolutely exhausted. See, what he's saying is, come to me. Out of all the people in Nashville, you have been selected. See, this has got to be a con. This can't be. Why would he select me out of all the people in Nashville? Out of all the exhausted folks who can hardly put one foot in front of another, why on earth would he select me? And on top of that, it's the heavy laden, you see, in verse 28, which again is a part of the restricted group, which literally, you remember, means freight on a ship. It means this heavy burden just placed down. So all the people in Nashville area who are literally absolutely exhausted and have had all of this weight placed on their shoulders and have all this responsibility and are stressed out and are wondering how they're going to make it. And he calls me on the phone and says, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden. I have selected you out of all the people in Nashville area. I will give you rest." Don't you want to say, what's the details? What's the fine print? What's the catch? There's got to be more to it than this. And one reason why you know it's a con, folks, is because the people who are exhausted and the people who are heavy laden and the people who are literally stressed out and people like you and me, we are so vulnerable to this kind of a con, because I would give anything to have rest. If I could get out of this exhausted state, if I could find rest, I would risk almost anything to have that. So he's talking to me when I am at my worst and lowest level. It's got to be a con. It can't be true. I will give you rest. And then you know it's a con for sure, because you know what the next statement is. Take my yoke upon you. Now, who is it that's absolutely exhausted, heavy laden, got all these burdens laid upon him, who is going to say, "Oh, yeah, to get rest, I'll take up another yoke. I'll join another club. Give me some more rules." See, that right there tells you it's got to be a con. See, I told you, it is a joke, not a yoke. I knew it. See, it's a con. It's got to be. What else could you say? When you get into the fine print, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Take my yoke. What's the criteria of the rest? What's the content of the rest, which we've been discussing? Number one is compliance, which is the take idea. Take my yoke upon you. Take is the Greek word eiro, and it literally means the idea of submit. And we've gone over this. There was 3 ideas we gave you last week, just to give you a little review to bring you up to date. The idea of take is commanded by him. So this submission is an absolute command of God. You don't have a choice on this. There's absolutely no way out of this. There's no way to get into the rest without this. You have to submit to him. So he is calling all the exhausted ones to come and submit, because the reason you are exhausted is because you have not submitted. See, you've been doing the opposite of the submitting. Therefore, he's calling you to take up, which is the submit to his yoke. And in the submission to his yoke, you begin to experience the rest that he has for you. So he has no choice but to command you to come into. If you're going to enter into the rest, one of the criteria is you've got to submit to him. You've got to take up his yoke. Submit to his yoke. This isn't hard to illustrate. The drowning man. He's frantic. He's waving his arms. He's fighting with everything he's got. Land is in sight, but he's frantic because he can't swim. You're trying to rescue him. As long as he is frantic, you cannot rescue him. Both of you are going to go down. It's only when he submits to you, the rescuer, that you can bring him into shore. So Jesus is saying the same identical thing. Come on, guys. The reason you are stressed out, the reason you are exhausted, the reason you are heavy laden is because you have not submitted in your own frantic manner. You have been trying to manipulate your own life and pull your own strings and do your own thing. Would you please come, submit, yield, take up, get involved, let go. That's his command. And I have not been able to get away from this. I've thought about this all week long. This whole idea of the customized. It's customized from him. That the yoke is not one size fits all. It's not that at all. This is an awesome thought. He has designed a yoke of rest that fits you. Your background, what you've gone through, where you are, your psychological needs, your upheavals, your scars, what you've experienced, your personality, what you're feeling, your emotional makeup, your nervousness, your physical condition, everything about you, he has designed this yoke of ease. And that's what he calls it, isn't it? Go down to verse 30. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. He has literally designed this yoke of ease for you. It's customized for your personality. That means I don't have to be like you. Woo! Praise the Lord. And you don't have to be like me. Oh, because he has designed. Can you imagine a redemption for life? A redemption for your life that is tailor-made. Can you imagine a God so infinite and so wise and so big that he designs a spatial redemptive process just for you? Oh, that's mind-boggling. A yoke of ease that you can surrender to and move into, that is customized, set up, designed. You don't want to miss this. Especially designed for your personality. Oh, the invitation, come to me, take, submit to the yoke, customized for you. And of course, the third part of this submission is not only commanded by him and customized for him, from him, but combination with him. It's the whole idea of linkage, and we really spoke heavy about this last week, but it's such a powerful idea, the idea of linkage. That this is not something he's going to give to us apart from him. We discovered that I will give you rest, is the word give is not really there. We discovered it literally has the idea, I will rest you. Which is not something he gives to you, it's something he is within you. And if you haven't experienced that, I have no idea how to explain that to you. The wonder of the fact that he doesn't give you anything, he is everything within you. That he doesn't give you power, he is your power. He doesn't give you peace, he is your peace. He doesn't give you answers, he is your answer. That somehow in the embrace of his person, you experience everything there is that you need, because it's not what he gives to you, it's who he is in you. And it's in the linkage that you find this. Everywhere we go in the scriptures, we come back to this amazing truth. This linkage with him. I challenge you to go through the scriptures and just hear him describe this thing to you. I am the vine. You are the branch. What is that all about? Linkage. It's in the linkage that life flows. It's in the linkage that fruit is born. It's in the linkage that everything you need is yours. It's in the linkage that you begin to be who you were built to be. It's in the linkage that it all begins to flow through you like it should. It's in the linkage that you literally experience all he's dreamed you could be. It's in the linkage that you know his life sap running through your system. It's in the linkage that you begin to understand the purpose of living. It's in the linkage. In the linkage. I am the vine. You are the branches. Oh, it's the linkage. Come, take my yoke. Hey, link with me in this. And everything you need will be yours. Don't do this alone, because even in that vine and the branch deal, he's talking about you can, there's nothing that without me you can do nothing. Because everything you do without him is nothing. And can you imagine a whole lifetime of work that literally meant nothing because it wasn't in linkage. It wasn't linkage. So the call is for, link with me in linkage. Then tonight, what we want to try to deal with is take my yoke upon you and learn from me. If you come to me and say, well, what exactly is this yoke? If I am to submit to the yoke of Jesus, what is this yoke all about? What am I submitting to? What is the imagery that he's using here? And of course, you know a yoke was a large beam, and it had these harnesses underneath, and you had two animals, two oxen that would have it over their shoulders and head, and they would pull together. So there's a linkage. The very idea of yoke is a linkage idea. So he has a yoke, and obviously he's on one side and I'm on the other side, and I'm submitting to this yoke, and I'm moving in to be linked with him in wherever we're going and whatever we're doing in this. And he is calling me to that kind of submission. What is this yoke that I'm giving myself to? How are you going to define it? He defines it as learn from me. Number one, I want you to note it's commanded by him. Again, no question about that. This is not a tyrant God who's setting up a bunch of rules to get something out of you or to keep control of you. This is not a tyrant God who's got some certain things he wants to do which will benefit him, and he's lining you up to get this done. This is not a God who has a hidden agenda, who's pulling the strings to get out of you what he needs for himself. This is not a tyrant God who's trying to suck you dry of your vitality, your energy, use you, and when he's done with you, throw you on the heap. This is not that kind of a God. This is a God who everything, can you fathom this? Everything he does, everything he requires is not because it is good for him, it's because it is good for you. Can you imagine a God who's calling you to link with him, learn of him, and everything he's going to teach you is not to manipulate you into what he wants you to be, but to bring you into what you are destined to be, which is what he wants you to be. But the motivation is not his selfish motivation. The motivation is in what's good for you. And every requirement he has is because this is absolutely right and good for you. This will bring you into all I've dreamed you to be. You could trust him if that's true. You could trust him. Because there would be no con in that. There would be no, out of all the people in Nashville, I've selected you. And you hang up. You could trust him because he has only what's good for you in mind. So this is a command not to keep us under control, but a command from God because it's best for you. And again, when you go down to verse 30, the whole idea of easy comes up. That he is literally bringing you into this because this is going to be easy for you. This is going to be right for you. I'm anxious to study the word easy there. Find out the depth of that word. What does he mean by that? This is going to be best for you. This is going to be easy for you. This is going to be right for you. This will work for you. He is working in your behalf. A command of God. Number two, it's conceived from him. This learn from him is conceived by him. In other words, everything he's going to teach you is literally conceived within his own being. It is produced out of, he has not gone to school and learned this from someone else. It is all literally brought out of his own heart and his own mind. What he wants to teach you is not data and not information. What he is desperate to teach you is all wrapped up in what is found within himself. Whew. Boy, this is hard to talk about. By the way, the root word for learn is the same as the root word for disciple. So they both spill out of the same concept. That to be a disciple of Jesus is to be a learner of Jesus. And you understand the whole concept of Judaism. That Judaism in Jesus' day, they had all kinds of rabbis and all kinds of teachers, and they had all kinds of clusters of groups that followed these teachers, and they were disciples or learners of these teachers. They submitted themselves to these teachers, and they submitted themselves to the philosophy to take on the shape of, to become a part of what these teachers would be teaching and to become like their teacher. Judaism was a whole system within itself. And you have studied enough of the Old Testament to know of the laws and the ceremonies and the feast days and the sacrifices and all that was involved, and everything revolved around the temple and God who lived in the temple, and everything from the political system of their hour down to the vacation time of their families, down to the way they handled their work schedules, down to everything they did from the Sabbath day, when they could work, when they couldn't work. All of that revolved around this system of Judaism. Their whole life revolved around the sacrifices, the hours of prayer, 9 in the morning, 3 in the afternoon. If they were decent Jews, they had the law structure, what they could do, where they could go, what they couldn't do, how they handled themselves in church. There were certain places you could, certain places you couldn't, depending on who you were. It was all set up in the system. The feast days, their vacations revolve around the feast days. Who were the most powerful men of their hour? The most powerful men of their hour were the individuals who were at the head of this system. They were the political movers of their day. The Sanhedrin, 70 of the most powerful men of their hour. They had this whole system. So their whole political system, their laws, how they handled themselves in relationship to Rome, the taxes, everything that they were about revolved around this one system. Their whole lives were sucked into and learned of and under the domination of this one single system. Now, in the context of what's going on here, this is phenomenal. Jesus is turning to these people who are literally dominated by this system, this burden, this weight of Judaism that is literally weighed on their shoulders with all of its rules and all of its activities, and yet never, ever gave them life. And Jesus is turning to this group of people who are burdened down and exhausted with this whole system and saying, listen, here's what I want you to do. I want you to give up this yoke, and I want you to come over to my yoke. I want you to get out of this system, and I want you to come into my system. I want you to give up this yoke of bondage, and I want you to come into this yoke of ease. I want you to leave this system of learning. As you've given yourself to this system of learning, now I want you to give yourself to this system of learning. Let me give you an example. There was this guy by the name of the Apostle Paul. He tells his own story in 2 verses. He was in this system. You know him, Saul of Tarsus. He says in Galatians 1:14, I advanced in Judaism beyond many of my contemporaries in my own nation, being more exceedingly zealous for the tradition of my fathers. See, I was in this system. I worked harder than anybody else. I was more zealous than anybody else. I gave myself more diligently than anybody else. I adhered to the rules of this system. I learned of this system. I excelled. I got A's when everybody else got B's. I graduated. I was the PhD of this system. I gave my whole self earnestly up to the tradition of my fathers. I was in this system. Whew. Listen to these words. But when it pleased God, who separated me from my mother's womb and called me through his grace to reveal his Son in me. I went to a new system, man. And as I was zealous for this system, that same zeal now became zealous for this system. As I was dedicated to this system, how much more am I dedicated to this system? If you think I was hot in this system, I'm burning, brother, in this system. If you think I was jubilant in this system, how much more jubilation is in this system. If you think, I'm telling you, this is now, what is this system? Jesus. Jesus. Wait a minute. This is organization. I know. This is the person of Jesus. Well, these are laws and rules. I know. This is the system of Jesus. But this is stand at this time, sit at that time, sing this, don't go there, stop that, I see that. This is, embrace. Fall in the arms of, rest in the presence of Jesus. Come. Listen, as you've been dedicated to this system, you know how hard you've worked for your system. You know how dedicated you've been. You know how you just beat your head against the brick wall of your system. You know how you've worn yourself. That's why you're exhausted. It's the system. Come on. Come to this system. What's your system? Well, my system is materialism. How hard have you worked? 80 hours a week, man. I've been dedicated. I've been pouring it out, brother. I just been beating my head. I get very little sleep. I've been planning, conniving. I've been working. I've been developing. I built this whole. You know, are you tired? Worn out. Would you give that same dedication to this system? To Jesus? As your mind has raced to figure out how you could work, would you let your mind race in learning who he is? As you have spent hours and hours and hours and hours going over the material would you let your heart hours and hours and hours and hours of just bathe in who he is? What's your system? My system is drugs. How dedicated have you been? Night and day, think about, I gotta have a fix. What's your system? Sexual pleasure. How your whole life revolves around sexual fantasy. How your whole existence is literally night and day you are dominated by, you are pressured by this. Would you come into a new system? The way you have night and day but had to have a fix, would you get so hooked on Jesus that I gotta have him? Would you be driven? Would you be addicted to? Would you allow your system just to be pulled in? Would you learn? That's what he's saying. And of course the last is, it's not only commanded by him. See, the yoke, the content of the yoke is learning of him. And in that learning, it's commanded by him, it's conceived from him, it's contained in him. Again, it's not learning data and information. It's not learning activities and rules. It's learning him. If we had a supreme mission in the church, it would be somehow that you would learn Jesus. Didn't say learn about Jesus. Said learn Jesus. That you would literally get so attracted to him that you would learn his person. Listen to what Jesus said in John 8:31. And if you abide in my word, you are my disciples indeed. And you shall know the truth. And the truth shall make you free. He went on in John 14:6 to say, I am the way, the truth, and the life. See, there's this connection between abiding in his word and learning him. And we talk about this and never do sufficiently describe it. The living word and the written word and the interaction of that thing. While I'm reading the Bible, it isn't just reading the Bible. Anybody can read the Bible. This is not intellectual study. This is not academic looking at a book. This is not figuring it out. This is not learning the Greek. This is beyond that. This is a living person called Jesus interacting with He's speaking to you until when you read the book, it becomes a living organism. And in that living organism, his lips begin to part and he actually speaks to you. And this word becomes alive because he's somehow communicating who he is to you. And you go away from the book saying, whoa, I just heard from Jesus. And you bathe yourself in his presence because you bathe yourself in his word. But it isn't his word, it's him. Because if it's just the book, then it's just black ink on white paper and some more ideas and another philosophy and one more book of theology. Read the manual. This is him. This is learn of him. I really got excited because I found out that the Greek word for epigenosko, the Greek word epigenosko, which, let me remind you, there are 4 Greek words for know. And one of them is gnosko, which is the idea of knowing relationally. It's the Greek word that's used for the most intimate relationship of marriage. Joseph did not know Mary until she brought forth her firstborn child. And the word know there is gnosko. So it has to do with intimacy and knowledge by experience. I know that's true. Why? Because I was there and I experienced it. That kind of an idea. Now, epigenosko is a beefed up version of that. And I found out that this whole idea of learn, that epigenosko is a synonym for learn. So the two go together. There's 2 places you can find this. One is in Colossians 1, 6, and 7. Look at this. He's talking about the gospel and all that the gospel is. And he says, this gospel has come to you as it is also in all the world, and is bringing forth fruit as it is also among you since the day you heard and knew, epigenosko, the grace of God in truth, as you also learned, there's our word for learn, from Epaphras. So the idea of epigenosko and learning are just statements of the same thing. This idea of embracing Jesus in such tightness and having such experience with him that in the experience of him, you literally know him. And can you ever get away from the fact that Jeremiah in his prophecy said that one day there was going to come this new covenant? And he said, you know what the new covenant is going to be all about? He said, what it's going to be all about is that no man will need to teach another man about the Lord. We'll just all know. I bet he used epigenosko. I don't know if he did or not, but he should have. We're just all going to embrace Jesus, and in the embrace of Jesus, he's going to bring revelation of himself, and we are just going to go, we are going to so know him, we are going to so learn of him. Don't you want to be in on that? The system of churchdom and the system of religion and the system of going through the ceremonies and the system of the laws and the system of the rules and the system of just doing stuff. Come on. Oh, Set that aside, he says. And as you dedicated yourself to that, would you now dedicate yourself to me, the person, and would you learn? Learn. Learn. Whew. Teach me, Jesus. Not classroom, not blackboard, not whiteboard, not information, not make me smart. Teach me, Jesus. Teach me your heart. Teach me the way you think. Teach me your responses. Teach me how do you react. Teach me your care. Teach me your love. Teach me the expression on your face. Teach me your attitude. Teach me the depth of your heart. Teach me your desires. Teach me your viewpoint. Teach me so I'll want what you want. So interact with my life that my heart vibrates with your concerns. So integrate into my mind, oh God, that I think like you think. So permeate my eyesight that I see my world like you see it. Come on, Jesus. I want to learn. And as I have aggressively gone after my systems, as I have fought for myself, as I have defended, as I have stood up for, my face has got red, as I have yelled and screamed for my own ends and system. Oh, may with the same intensity I submit to you, that you might embrace me and teach me your heart. Please, please. I am so exhausted I can't get out of my system. I've been so abused by the telephone calls and the emails that I see a con behind every stone. Every invitation is suspicious. Break through my walls. Bring me to your heart. Heads are bowed. Would you submit? All the energy you've poured out that has brought you to exhaustion, would you let that flow into finding Him? All the stress, upset, worry, all the frantic efforts you fought to save yourself, would you now relax in His arms? Would you let Him rescue you? Would you let Him do in you what you're incapable of doing? Would you let Him teach you? Would you allow Him to become the system of your existence until your politics, your social life, your recreation, who you are, how you think, what you do, all spills from His person? You are His. Moments of surrender. Seek with us, will you?